Well, what we don't know is what the reason is that she actually resigned. We're just getting her resignation letter now, and it doesn't add anything to that. It's just her formal resignation letter to the president, and some of that was quoted in the statement that you were just reading. But she did miss the last Fed meeting for a personal matter. We don't know what it was. She is, according to the Fed, going to go back to the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown this fall as a professor, so presumably her health is all right. We don't know if it's a family issue or something like that. Now, her term was going to be up in January of next year, so she may have just decided that whatever it was in her personal life, that she wanted to go ahead and leave now while she can, and then not have the responsibilities of the Fed for the next couple of months.
Remind us as a Fed governor what the responsibilities are, as opposed to the president of a regional Fed bank.
Well, their basic responsibility, of course, is to vote on monetary policy, but the Fed governors all have committees that they run. The Fed is a big organization that does a lot besides monetary policy, and they have to manage the institution. And so she served on some of those committees as well. But basically, the job is to keep track of the economy and to figure out what should be done on the monetary policy side. She was not an outspoken member of the board on that, but she did have a fairly clear record of saying that price stability is the most important thing, which is sort of a Fed shibboleth. And so it makes it for an interesting situation as far as the president is concerned.
Before we get into that, it's not uncommon for a member of the Fed, right, to step down, or is it?
It's not uncommon for a member of the Fed to step down. They're appointed for 14-year terms, although if you're appointed to fill someone's unexpired term, you can get another 14 years when that term is up. But very, very few people stay that long. The only two people that I can think of were Alan Greenspan, who served for 18 years, I believe, almost 20, and one other governor who basically did nothing else, but that was his job. Yeah. And so at this point, it's unusual for somebody to resign this soon before their term is up, because most of the time what ends up happening is the president hasn't nominated someone yet to take the job, or the Senate hasn't acted on the nomination. So the person stays longer because the position's not filled.
So let's get to what happens now, and to that question that Carol was alluding to, the president's ability to appoint somebody and what that process looks like, and any names on a short list, Mike.
Well, the names are the names that you've all heard, the two Kevins, Hassett and Warsh. Scott Bessent, although that's still,
a lot of work,
still hard.
It?
Yeah, it's still hard to kind of put that one together. And then
these would be for her position as Fed governor. That would be.
Well, the other person obviously is Chris Waller. And now, the problem for the president is that he doesn't know if Jay Powell is going to resign his job as governor, which he can stay until 2028, when his term as chair is over. So the Kugler seat might be the only one he has to appoint somebody new to the Fed to be the chair. And this was a decision that they were hoping to make sometime in October or November. They could still wait and leave the seat unfilled for the time being, or Kugler could agree to stay on, although her letter to the president and the Fed's press release suggests that won't happen. But it does move up the opportunity for the president to move. Now, what is his gamble? Is he going to bet he could move somebody else into a seat if Jay Powell leaves, or is he going to appoint somebody to the Kugler seat now, which, if the Senate acted reasonably expeditiously, could put somebody in some months before Jay Powell leaves and create this shadow Fed situation. Now, expeditiously, I have to warn everybody, the Senate's going out now for August. They will come back with no budget, and so a government shutdown is likely the 1st of October. So they may not act until late into the fall anyway on someone's nomination. The only way around that would be for the president to appoint Chris Waller right now because he's already on the board as the chairman designate, and then it wouldn't matter how long it takes to fill the Kugler seat.
Should we assume that whoever that the president may choose to fill this seat, he'll get who he wants based on the current congressional?
Well,
like, how does that work?
yes, within
Can we
reason.
make that assumption?
It's the Senate Banking Committee would confirm them, and the Senate Banking Committee is controlled by Republicans, as is the Senate floor. So, in theory, anybody he appoints would get nominated, would get confirmed, except that in his first term, he appointed some people or nominated some people who were clearly unqualified. And the Republicans in the Senate Banking Committee rejected them. And so if he picked somebody from the fringe, we might see that again. But the names that we have talked about here, the four names that have circulated, they would all get confirmed. They would all have support.
Should we assume if he picks somebody that this might be somebody he's also thinking about as a replacement for Jay Powell, or not necessarily?
Well, that would be the assumption that everybody would make, and certainly in the markets, because of the fact that Powell has avoided saying, and he did it again Wednesday, whether he will resign or not. Fed chairs, when their terms are up, have generally resigned as a member of the Board of Governors, but they don't have to. And Michael Barr was the vice chair for supervision. He resigned that job when Trump was elected, but is still on the board as a governor. He decided to stay around.
Mike, how does this change, given that she was a voting member, how does it change the outlook? Look, it's a lot of unknowns here, but what effect does this have on September's meeting at this point, on rate cut expectations?
It probably doesn't have a huge amount of influence because she's always voted with the chair, and it's unlikely that anybody else is going to. I'll almost guarantee that if she actually leaves the seat, that seat will be empty at the September meeting.
She said she'll leave effective August 8th.
Right. But as I pointed out, sometimes they can stay on. They can be asked to stay on until a replacement is confirmed. If she doesn't do that, then it is unlikely that that seat will be filled by September. But it wouldn't change the vote. The only two people we know about now who wanted a rate cut were McKee, Bowman, and Chris Waller. And the data that we got today, if we got more of that, could change more minds. But the fact that she's there or not isn't going to change what the ultimate outcome is.